Hello. So John is my husband. We both own the Wells Agency with Allstate Insurance. We bought an existing book of business, which means a set of customers. Hi, Jay. Um, we bought an existing book of business 15 years ago. Our particular agency is 51 years old. We're one of the larger ones in the state of Georgia. And just our backgrounds, we were coming with a very different set of skills. So my background, I'm a psychotherapist. I've been one for over 25 years. So I specialize in crisis and communication. And my husband's background is in IT. So he specializes in process. So you kind of put us together and you've got a really good balanced team. And so that makes us A, having two owners, B, having our skill set. You know, we have the foreground of having deep success, and we've been in businesses for a very long time, and I don't want to say older, but we are. I'm older where I'm seasoned in life and I have a lot of wisdom and knowledge, and so it all kind of is the trifecta. We're very successful, and we are who we are, though we're not going to change who we are at this stage.
Well, I think your background probably helps you empathize. A lot of times, obviously, insurance, you only need insurance when something tragic happens, right?
Exactly.
Not when something happy happens.
Exactly. That's why I preach so much. That's when I want to be there. I mean, literally, I'm a broken record. People that know me hear the same thing in and out of, you call us. You never call an 800 number. You call us directly, because I want to be there, because a machine does not know your tone and what that means to you internally and how upset you are. And I can read that and de-escalate and calm you down.
Well, before we hop into a little bit of the contribution, you touched on the 800 number. And this is something you've taught to me. Gosh, I tell all my clients, like, do not do this. Why
Right.
do not call the 800 number?
So whenever you call an 800 number, including Allstate, you don't speak to licensed people. So because you're not speaking to licensed people and you're inquiring about something that's wrong, they by law, not company, have to put a claim in on you. They don't tell you, they don't ask you. And it's in. Once it's in and you actually talk to a claims adjuster, they literally verbatim will say, okay, they're taking your information down. Great, we'll have someone call you in the next 24 hours. You hang up the phone, you're thinking, that was great service. That person calling you is a claims adjuster. And so because they are licensed in that area, they're going to go through your information and tell you if something's covered or not. And you're calling with blind information, with no protection. And once that's in, you lose a claims-free discount and your surcharge. And if you go anywhere, you've got a claim on your record. So it only hurts you. So I preach very heavily, never call an 800 number unless your house is on fire. Then call 911 first. And you need to have an agent. It's just, can't say how important it is. And a lot of companies have agents, but you've got to have an agent to protect you for so many reasons, especially now in the industry.
And this includes if they don't pay anything out. So if you call that 800 number and
Right.
it's not really a claim, it turns out it's just not covered, or it's cheaper for you to pay for it yourself than do the whole, deductible thing, you still have a claim on your
It
record.
still follows you. A lot of companies will say if it's an inquiry, it won't count. But to get a company to say this was an inquiry only is almost impossible to get. And so it just winds up hurting you 99% of the time.
How many claims before somebody drops you?
So the law is 3 and 3 years, which means paid or not paid. But in today's market, so y'all's real estate industry is so different right now. So I've been in business 16 years and I know the history of 50 years. Insurance it's been this bad before, but in different ways. But in terms of the volatility of claims, it's never been this bad. So people are dropping. A lot of companies are dropping after one claim. It depends how deep the company's pockets are. Even an inquiry, I've seen drops, which is crazy. But the law, it's technically 3 out of 3 years, but everybody's doing their own thing right now. Everybody's at risk. So the more you can have a barrier of protection, the better.
So how would that impact you if you're bundled? Is it 3 just home or 3 auto combined? How does that work?
So it's really per category. So
Okay.
it's all separate. So yeah, because your auto, you've got tickets and accidents, those are different. They hold on different amount of times. 3 years for an accident, 3 years for a minor ticket, 5 years for major, just for knowledge.
My son's accident just rolled off. Whew.
Oh, a home claim holds 5 years, just so you know.
A
5
home one
years.
does. Okay.
And
Fine.
it doesn't matter if you move. Oh, here's a big thing. Here I go.
Yes, here we go. This is great
Here I
information,
go.
right?
Oh, so when you buy a home, so you're with your buyers, right? And this is just value add because I have realtors don't know this. When you're looking at a home and I've had realtors literally tell other realtors, you can't buy this home. It's uninsurable. There's like 5 claims on this home. That actually doesn't matter for the buyer at all. They're coming in as though they have 0. It follows the named of that person, or the named insured. So, and the thing is, when you sell that house, those claims follow you for 5 years, no matter where you live. So it's not like, oh, I had it. This is a new house. It's a clean slate. That is not the case. So that's why you also have to be careful. So, and they hold 5 years. That's a long time. So when you have inquiries and all these different things, you can really put yourself in a tight predicament, especially in today's market. It's tight right now, but yeah.
So that's great info there. So I know in the past, when I've had you guys quote, you'll also pull the history, right, of that house, and you can see claims.
Yes.
I've had a house that had been on fire before and had a fire claim, and a massive one, and they did not disclose it. So
Mhm.
if you work with somebody that you trust, that you refer your clients to all the time, that's another benefit. Or if something seems strange and you think there might have been a claim, when you get there, sometimes there are signs. You can have you guys pull it up, and then we know. And unfortunately, sellers aren't always honest.
Or
And
they fixed it and they think I don't need to tell you because it's fixed.
mhm.
But did they fix it correctly? What if they think they know how to do it, but they didn't have a professional do it? Or there's so many times, and it doesn't matter what company it was insured with. There's a database we can pull from that shows claims of that home that you're buying. And during your due diligence time, honestly, we care about our customers. We want to protect them. This is the best way, one of the best ways to protect them and it has to be done the day you go under contract, because you have a time period where your money's protected under due diligence. So I can literally pull all the claims on that home, and you can get it checked out if you want to make sure it's done properly and make decisions based on that while you still have ownership of your money.
Yeah,
And then we bring you that information, and now you look like a rock star because you're sharing that with your customer. Wow, the value add there is priceless.
it is. It's just huge for it.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've gone down this road, so let's just continue with
Keep
some of
going.
this, because like I said, and then we'll come back to the contribution piece. So another thing that I have always found super valuable with you guys is when we do talk about flood insurance. I always tell clients, buckets to bail your house out are not good closing gifts. And people often, though, don't understand that when a house is in a flood zone and you buy flood insurance, unless there's a FEMA disaster, unless I'm incorrect here, Nancy, that it doesn't mean your claim will get settled, correct?
Well, it varies. It has to, so you don't have to have an actual storm for flood to cover, but it has to cover at least 2 properties. So like a pool could be a flood, depending on if there's enough damage. But there are specific zones, and they keep rezoning. So many places have different zones. And the hard part is they don't update all the time on the different sites that y'all are looking at. So sometimes you're deer in headlight. I don't know what it is, but we have access to pull it immediately. So that's why I'm a good resource. And you can't shop flood. It's through FEMA. We have a lot of experience. And so a lot of people lived in a home 35 years. Well, during that time, it's been rezoned and they don't know. So when you have a new person coming in and it gets flagged, your owner is saying, what do you mean it's in a flood zone? I didn't know or it's not. But that's why. It's because it's during that time. We have a lot of experience with flood.
Yeah, and you've got maybe part of the yard, right? We've all seen properties where part of the yard is, but the dwelling's not. And if you've got questions on that, like you said, we have tools, but they're not accurate like your tools are. So,
Right. And the piece of property that you're buying has different elevations on the different parts of it, right? Even though they're owning the whole entire thing, all that matters in terms of the flood in regards to insurance and funding to get your loan is where the house is. So if, on the bottom of that piece of land is A or AE, which do require flood insurance, but where the home is itself is on an X, it's going to pull up in your system, our system, as an X, which means it's not required. Anybody can get flood insurance, but in order to get funding for a loan, if it pulls up, you have to have flood insurance.
so that's another tool that resource we've used you guys for several
Yeah.
times.
For sure.
So, let's talk a little bit about why insurance is cheaper your first year. And then it's going to go up. And a lot of our clients start freaking out, want to start shopping the minute it goes up. But why is that the same literally with every company?
That's the way the industry is actually, and there is so a lot of people have welcome discounts. They have the age of the home comes with a discount. So as the age of the home ages, that discount diminishes. That's a popular one a lot of companies have. But
The roof, right? The roof is a
roof, depending on the type of policy you're in, a lot of companies have different types that after a certain age, it will start to depreciate its value and they'll pay according to that. It just depends what line you're in and what company. But in the industry, there is no company ever, unfortunately, anymore that's not going to go up every year. That's the way they stay afloat. The industry is losing money. Every company is losing money. State Farm last year reported $1 billion loss every month for the year in just auto. Every company's right there with them. So the amount of claims that are out there, the amount of people, ours have gone up over 400%. The industry is not prepared for the amount of claims there are right now. So it's an issue.
$1 billion a month in auto.
$1 billion with a B. Yes. Every company's right behind them.
So, we are a perfect example. I just added my daughter. She's a little late to driving, and she's 18. And we added her on because she got her license, did the designate, what is that called? Defensive driving. So we add that on. I call in, I'm talking to Michelle, and I'm adding an 18-year-old, right? And my policy went down $884. And she and I were like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Went down?
It went down, right? And so she's like, I'm gonna let John look at this.
Yeah.
We were like, so, and I'm like, I will take it, but I just was not expecting that. But we had hit some milestones, right? Like I turned 50. My son's accident came off. We just had like a series of things that happened, and the discount was really like $1,200, almost $1,300 for 6 months. And so when we added her on, my discount now was the $884, but it makes a huge difference. You know what I mean? Like things that we don't think about sometimes.
That's the value of a review also is
Yes.
there are so many discounts available in every company. But when's the last time your agent called you and said, let's go over everything proactively and let me save you money? We literally call every customer. I don't care if you have a renter's policy, every customer every year. And this is where it stands us big time different from others. And we do a review on absolutely everything because I want your rate the best it can always be. And it's also uncovering any holes in liability because as you go through life, your insurance needs change. And I want to make sure that there's no holes because we're doing life together. I want to make sure I don't care if I'm losing $500 and you have a better rate because we're doing life together. I want to make sure you're safe, you're secure, we have a relationship, all is well. Let's raise our families together, and there's value to that. Big value.
Well, the defensive driving, Kimmy, having that, you know what I mean? Like there was all these different little layers to it. And, and I think a lot of adults don't realize you can take a defensive driving class that saves you money.
Every 3 years.
Don't have to be a teenager, right? We just think when you get your license, they do that, but it actually saves you as an adult.
A lot of money, hundreds every year. And we actually pay for that for all of our customers. That's something that we do.
Yeah, it's a class that you can take online, right?
Mhm.
So
Very
I
easy.
know that's been a huge one.
Mhm.
I think can work for you, Nancy.
Don't tempt me.
One of
You
my
can start
favorite
tomorrow.
things, you know what I mean? Like, this has always been one of my things with Nancy is that she has educated us so much on how to help a client and have conversations with them that make us look like a rock star. I always tell them I'm not an expert. We got to check and see if something's changed, but there are things that have helped me in deals get someone not in a bad situation, or once we've got them in, telling them, like I get a call and they go, Lorraine, it's going up. And I'm like, it's going to do that with everybody. Like, I know you want to shop and you think this is going to do a big thing, but I actually had a client who left Nancy, went somewhere cheap. She had a massive flood. Her daughter plugged a toilet. She had a massive flood in her house. And my first thought when she called me panicked was, oh, thank God she's got Nancy. And I find out she didn't anymore. And it was not like I had to coach her. She never got a call back from her State Farm agent ever. No matter how many messages she left for them, that agent that held that policy, she ended up having to do everything through the 800. And I ended up, coaching her. They did extra damage to the house. The contractor that came damaged extra parts of her flooring by dragging your fridge into the kitchen. And I said, they need to replace that. Like, you got to take photos. Like, I had to help her manage this now. And all I kept thinking was, shoot, she insurance companies, right? Like for me, it would have been like a hook y'all in call. And then, other than I did help her pick out new flooring and I did some of that because she intends to sell in a few years. But I just kept thinking, shoot. And she told me, she's like, okay, Lorraine, I've had to lecture.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
John
Like,
is so involved with claims with people. That's one of the things that takes up most of his time is just making sure things are done correctly. Because even though you're with a company, who your agent is matters because they can make a big difference in a claims process and stay on
well,
top of
yes.
things.
And they referred her to 3 different people for like the water, and mold and, the mediation piece of it. They were going to have to come tear out. And I told her, I said, look them up for reviews before you pick one of them. 2 of them had 1-star reviews on Google. Only one of them was decent. And I told her, I said, you need to call back and ask for some other options. Like, you need to push on them, because who wants somebody with a 1-star review coming up in your house? And you know what I mean? Like, who you work with matters. And I was shocked
Absolutely.
they were referring her people that had horrible stuff said about them,
Yeah.
and so that was another thing. Like, you've referred people for us, like, even if it's not a claim, I've called you and you've given me people that will do a really good job. That's another benefit of working with you guys, that y'all work with really good contractors.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we have a list that with Allstate, that's they're phenomenal. And the thing is they're held accountable, so that's the nice thing. You can choose anybody that you want, but again, that's why you have to look at the references and making sure, because like, for instance, let's just go there, roofs. There's no licensing in roofing. I could literally go register and put a shingle outside my door and start door knocking. And and that if you sign a contract, because people don't know and people prey upon people that don't know. Once you sign a contract with them, they can go make a claim for you without you realizing it, which makes me shake, because what we talked about before, the protection of the claims, because they just throw a bunch up and whatever hits, they're happy it hits. And there's absolutely no protection on that whatsoever. And when they don't, and they're saying, yes, we guarantee your work, but what happens when they are gone the next year and something's wrong with your roof? So it's just, again, who you work with matters.
And they knock on doors, right? Like, they get literally a storm
Everyone.
comes through, they
Yes.
knock on everybody's door.
Yes.
There's all that kind of stuff to it. And
You have to find business by knocking on a door. That's not someone to do business with.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, so that's always been huge for us. So let's talk about adequate coverage, because a lot of times people remodel their homes, they finish basements, they don't let you guys know. So,
Again, why we call every year. That's one of our questions. Have you
you
done
know,
anything to your home?
because one of the things I think, and we've run into that, everybody's really tight right now, right, financially,
Sure.
and taxes have gone up, homeowners insurance goes up. You start talking about it, and I've had several clients call me. They want, they're like, I want to contest my, my taxes, or I want to get a quote for insurance or whatever. And I've had to have this conversation with them where, very politely, but if the reason that your home has gone up in taxes and insurance is because it has to be covered, right, for you guys. On taxes, your neighbors are selling your house for 300,000 more than you bought it for. I know it stinks, but that's the market, right? Like, I know you don't benefit while you're still living in it, but that's the market. Well, it's the same on insurance, right? Like, if your house burns down, you want it built back the way you know what I mean? You want that finished basement that you put all that money in. So if you don't let you guys know, you're
It
not putting
only
it
pays
back
out
up.
on what the policy says, not what you want it to. It's
Yeah.
whatever the policy says. I mean, insurance, a lot of people look at it as a home warranty, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. Insurance is for large losses. We recommend a high deductible and having your coverages very substantial, so where you are very covered, having an umbrella policy, because people are out to profit on insurance, and 40% of accidents on vehicles, call an attorney first. If you don't think that they're not coming after you, you are mistaken. I mean, that's why a lot of rates are so high, is because these attorneys, everybody's paying out huge payments, and they're exploiting the industry, and that makes rates go up. So you've got to have enough protection or you could lose your assets.
So we're talking remodeling. We're talking also jewelry. That's something a lot of people don't think about. Asset things in your home. Nancy always has recommended keeping video of your house.
Oh, we just had a customer have their whole second floor burned completely down. They literally, imagine that happening to you, how shooken up you are. All your contents, you lived in your home 20 years. They give you a piece of paper and they say, write down everything you've lost. Could you imagine going through that? How stressful it is? And you're going to forget so many things. And it's much better to take your phone twice a year, walk around, video everything, and email it to yourself and to someone else. So that should, God forbid, that loss happen, you pull that up and now you're so much calmer, because when you have to go back and say, oh, wait, there's more, they start to get suspicious in every company. So there's certain things you can do to be smarter. That's one.
Yeah, and Nicole said her wedding rings in the chat are covered. Yeah, so jewelry is another big thing, right, Nancy?
Every policy in every company has a limit of coverage, and usually it's really low for jewelry coverage. Wedding rings, usually there's not enough coverage for that. If you have a diamond, there's not enough coverage for that. You can do two different ways of coverage. You have to schedule them. To schedule, you have to have an appraisal done. So say I have an appraisal that's 20 years old. Well, value of jewelry has gone up substantially within 20 years. So you need to have one at least a few years old, because it'll only pay up to the amount that's on that appraisal. So always, any collectibles, if I give you a lot of guns, there's a limit that every company has. Usually it's around 2,500. Jewelry, you can do a bulk coverage without appraisal, or specific with an appraisal. And then if you are traveling in Japan and you lose your diamond, you could pull it off of your home and there's no deductible. But if it's not scheduled, there's no coverage.
Why is it important to combine auto and home insurance?
Always bundle wherever you are. And I tell people that I don't care what company you're with, bundle. There are such significant discounts. You are wasting money pulling them apart. It's deep, several $100s between the two to bundle it together. And then you have one relationship with one agent. Everything is simplified. Always bundle. And because of the industry being difficult right now, A lot of companies are forcing it where they won't write one without the other now.
So let's get a little bit into that. I know we have a lot of agents that we work with that work in Florida. That's a whole nother crazy market. But I even had here where a friend of mine, and I recommended you guys the other day, her roof was getting older and they were going to cancel her policy. So let's talk about a little bit like what is going on with that right now? Why are we seeing some stuff
Crazy
canceled? And
industry right now, for sure. So a lot of carriers are not writing homes with roofs at a certain age, or they are giving no coverage. Because if you think about the amount of your premium for your home, that's a year, just say it's $700 to $1,000. Let's just say it's $1,000, right? And you have $1,000 deductible and you have so much damage, and so the company could be paying out $7,000 to $10,000 for a new roof. You're putting in $1,000, and you have your deductible. That pool of money from the insurance carrier is dropping significantly without having a profit coming into it. So they are not making money on homes because the amount of, and think about the catastrophes that are out there. There's a lot of them right now. The losses are in such a large amount. The only way for them to stay afloat business wise is to tighten the rules. And that's why everybody's getting tighter and tighter and tighter of what they will cover and won't cover because they have to stay in business.
yeah,
If
so
you
it
as
doesn't,
an owner, I get it. Makes
I
it
mean,
hard.
we're not in Florida, but all the hurricanes, we're not in California, but all the fire, I mean, all that impacts that company. It doesn't have to be just our state.
Right. It is separated by state. So, which is, you want to be grateful for, because imagine if we had Florida's influence on us. That's why their premiums down there are astronomical. And it's hard to get insurance down there because of the losses are so grand, especially now. But even Georgia, the amount of people that are moving here is one of the hottest places to live. That is good, but the bad of it is there's a lot more claims. I mean, it's up over 400%. Just in the auto alone. That's every company. So if you don't have a deep pocket, companies are going under. Some companies aren't even allowed to write in this state. It's tight. And let's just keep the conversation with roofs. Why, so say you have damage. How do you know what damage is covered and not covered? And again, this is when you need an agent because you have to have it checked out first to make sure. The way insurance works is it looks in a 10 by 10 radius to see the amount of dings that are on there. Because just because your neighbors had their roof replaced, hail, we don't get much hail here. Hail has to be very large to cause enough damage to have a roof damaged for replacement. It's going to hit the gutters first in little marks, but you have to have enough damage for it to be covered. Georgia is a non-match state, which means it's only going to match the coverage that was damaged unless it hits a certain amount. Then they'll cover the whole thing. But it's just very tricky now. You have to have contacts to make sure things, and you have your deductible. If it's under your deductible, it's not going to be covered. If it's just above and your surcharge every year, you're in the red. You should not have put it in. That's why you need a licensed agent to advise you prior.
What's the most common reason a claim is denied?
Under the amount of your deductible.
Of your deductible.
So common. That's what I was saying. A lot of people think that it's a maintenance policy. It's not a maintenance policy. Can you imagine if it was the cost that we would have to charge? It'd be insane. It's meant for large loss. That's why you need to have a large deductible. The average person puts in a claim once every 10 years.
Let's talk about outbuildings and fences. What's covered, what's not.
And that goes with trees. Definitely too.
Yes.
So, okay. So you have a coverage called other structures on your policy. That's anything that is detached from your house and not attached. So that's going to be your sheds. That's going to be your pools. That's going to be if you have a fireplace that's not attached to the house. If you have a fence, if a tree fall, and this is something people don't know until you know.
Yeah.
So trees fall all the time here because they have short roots and we get a lot of water. So they tend to fall more here. So tree falls, hits your house, hits your car, and it's rooted next door in your neighbor's yard. You would think it's their fault because it's their tree. It's considered what's called an act of God. So it is actually a comprehensive loss if it's for your auto, but it's on your policy. So wherever it lands is whose claim it is. Now, if it is known that it was not alive, intentionally known, and it falls and hits you, the company's going to try and subrogate the money back from that owner. But you're also looking in terms of safety, so we always, like when you're looking at homes with your clients, trees are so expensive to get trimmed back. That's one of the things you need to look at is, are there big branches on top of your roof that you're looking to buy? Because every carrier is going to flag that after they write the policy, because it encourages critters to come in and chew up in your home. No company covers that in a home ever. So they want it trimmed back. So during your due diligence time, you can ask for it to be trimmed back because that's a lot of money. And it's going to get flagged in any insurance company. So just knowing those things. And if it hits if a tree hits and trashes your fence, remember there's a surcharge when you have a claim. And you have your deductible. Is the amount of damage on your fence? Usually it's not the amount of your deductible, because it might be a lot to you, but it might only be $500-600. Well, if your deductible is at least $1,000 and your surcharge, you're going to be in the red if you make that phone call. So you're making an emotional call. That's where you call your agent first.
So you were talking about trimming trees back and all that too. I also had a client one time that had a cracked sidewalk, and we've been in a situation where we really couldn't ask for a lot of repairs for some time now. And it's a hazard, right? It's a huge tripping hazard. And they did have to fix it once my client closed as a buyer. So talk a little bit about, things like that, driveways and stuff like that.
So you have so every policy has something called liability protection. And so for someone to have access to it, you have to show that you were being negligible. And that's if there's a stump that's sticking out of the ground, if you have an uneven driveway that's extreme and someone falls in and hurts themselves, if you have a dog that comes out without a leash and bites somebody, all those things are things that'll be covered because the homeowner did something negligible. If someone just trips over their shoelace and sprains their ankle, but you have not done anything negligible, they will not have access to that, even if they threaten to sue you. That they will have access to if you have what's called guest medical coverage. All you have to do is have an injury on your property, and anybody can use that, including your own family, can have immediate access to that. That's why a lot of people ask you, do you have guest medical coverage?
I don't think people realize you guys actually drive by and look at people's houses that are insured.
Every company does. Well, not every. Most companies do. After you insure a policy, they drive by because they want to make sure there's no risk of liability, because they're on the hook to pay. If you have not many people, I mean, we're in Atlanta, a lot of cars you don't have a lot of cars up on, the bricks like here growing up, but that would be, or, refrigerator, someone can crawl it in and get caught, or a pool without a fence. You have to have a fence. It doesn't have to be directly around the pool, but it has to be around the vicinity of the pool. You're jumping the big bouncies that people love that just says broken bones everywhere. I mean, you just can't have it visible from the street. So they're looking for liability risks.
Yeah. And that's how they get caught, right? And then they're upset, but they're not following the rules. So we talked a little bit about getting your insurance canceled, right? You get too many claims. And I know there's another tier of like insurance, it's almost like you can't qualify for the good stuff. So you end up in this alternative. Let's talk about how ugly that insurance is.
Could be 5-6 times the cost. And there's also what's called forced place insurance. If someone just decides, I'm just not going to pay my bill, I'm so over this, I'm not doing it, I'm out, I'm done. You can self-insure yourself if you don't have a loan. But the danger of that is, what if someone dies and you have a pool? You can lose absolutely everything. What if it burns down? Who's rebuilding it? That's why you've got to have the coverage for rebuild and for liability coverage. But yeah, Allstate, and it's right now, I mean, every company changes all the time. We will write you if you have more than one claim, depends what type of claim it is. A lot of carriers will only write one. Some will not write any right now because it's so tight with the rules. To go to a third party broker that has a lot of claims, especially in today's time with how tight everything is, you will pay probably triple or quadruple your rate.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right?
That's from making these calls. That's from having low payouts. I mean, it's not protected, not having an agent looking out for you. I cannot stress enough. I
Of
mean,
course that is. Yes. Don't call the 800 number.
just certain things, it's got to get to where it's common sense in life. I mean, when you buy a TV, do you buy the cheapest one there is? No. If you want an attorney, are you just going to open a book and call the first one on the list? No. You need to protect your assets that way. Be smart.
Yeah. So this is something that, like I said, when my clients have something come up, I've talked about with them during the transaction, right? Like we have talked about this. I always cue them up for you guys when I refer over why you guys are different. But that's a piece of my business that I have really thought was super important because she called, literally her house was flooding. I was the call she had because I want them to call me. I want to make sure they don't make a mistake when they have a claim. I mean, you can start getting in serious, you know what I mean? Like where she couldn't get a response from somebody, or you get a bad contractor, or you know what I mean? And that's that come from contribution piece with me. It's also something that we've talked about multiple times to be able to reach out to somebody after they close. Adding you guys into that, if they want to reevaluate it. And we've also talked about life insurance. You guys do life insurance.
Yes, we do.
Not a fun topic.
Nope.
Nobody wants to talk about the planning, but we see in our industry all the time where someone does not plan. And when someone passes away, it's already traumatic, and it is an awful time to then realize that you are not covered. You have no planning in place. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So you and I have a mutual customer that we experienced that with.
Yes.
And I actually tell that story all the time. They just closed their home. Home was what I want to say around 500,000.
Yeah, 500,000. Yeah.
And the wife was stay home, several little kids, husband, and they were young, because you don't think death happens can happen at any time.
He was 34 years old.
Yeah, baby. Yep, was killed unexpectedly. And I think his work had enough money to bury him.
They gave her, the $10,000, kind of policy you get a lot of times when you sign up. Which I didn't know this. Nancy told me. On top of that, you have to claim that as income on your taxes when your employer paid for it, which really stinks, right? Like you got this tragedy, they're going to give you money, and now you got to claim it as income. But they didn't have life insurance.
Especially if you hear about someone that has a child. I just do heavy education. If you're going to buy a home, you need to cover it also. And you need to cover it should there's something happen, because those children have just lost one parent. Now the other parent can't grieve because they have to sell their house, get another job. And the experience on the children to lose all of that at one time because you didn't get a policy that was very inexpensive to cover at least the mortgage is selfish and wrong. You've got to protect your family.
Hard. And when you're young, it's cheap.
It's based and age based.
Older, right? Like it's so much cheaper. And then it goes even beyond that. Like she didn't have access to their checking account. One spouse always pays the bills, and it goes to logins, right? Like, do you have the right logins? Do you know what bills there are to pay? Are you on title, right? Like that's a big thing on our side is, are both spouses on title, we run into that. We run into a lot of other things with the estate planning side that we see. But one of the biggest things is I find is a lot of people just don't even have the basic life insurance. So let's talk life insurance versus your mortgage company trying to give you
Mortgage insurance,
mortgage
very
insurance, because this is
different
huge.
products. So say you have, just for numbers, a $200,000 loan, right? So you get mortgage insurance, and mortgage insurance is, let's just say, $50 a month, right? It's $50 a month for the entire period of your loan. And as you're paying your loan, that amount that you owe goes down because you're paying it over time. Your premium never goes down. And should you die, all it does is pay off the amount that you owe, and it's gone. Okay. So a regular life insurance policy, which is totally different. So say you take one out for 500,000, right? And you own the home 20 years. You wind up owing, let's just say, 100,000 at that time, 200,000. It's still going to pay you 500,000. So now you have all that extra money on top of that, and you're still paying the same premiums to do anything that you want to with it. It does not have to go to the mortgage. It can go wherever you choose it to go. So the difference is you're paying for something you're not getting. All it's doing is paying down your mortgage off, versus the other, you're getting that plus, you're getting the full amount. So it's apples and oranges, totally different. And you can put an actual life insurance amount, you can put that on the mortgage and have the excess amount. So it's depends what you want the function of it for, but it is not the same product.
Yeah, a lot of people they'll call me, they'll close, they start getting the letters. I'm like, get real life insurance. Do not do
Yeah.
this. You're
Higher value.
it's not the amount of money that you need to be. So let's talk about the contribution piece. Nancy is huge on education. You with us as agents spend a lot of time loving on us. So let's talk about, and it's not just like our clients, but it's also us. Let's talk about how you built that as a business into your your business
Absolutely.
model.
So I believe in, as a therapist, I'm real. You're going to get to know me really quick, and you're going to know me. You're not, just because you meet someone, you're not going to do business with them. You have to know, like, and trust them. How do you do that? You become friends. So I am not out where there's 100 other insurance people, because I'm not average. I'm not the typical normal. We're very established, and I work with very established people. So your time is very important. So we get to know people, and you've got to have your team. You cannot just be a realtor. You have the value add for the customer experience has to be great. If this was you, what would you want? You want everything brought to the table at the highest level. So by doing that, we teach each other. So I educate every time I'm around people. There's so much you can learn. And I love it when I have a 30-year-old agent, or 30-year agent, and I'm still teaching them stuff. That makes my heart happy. When I hear them echo what I say, it makes my heart. Every time you do the 800 number talk, it's like you're my student. I'm like, I'm so proud. I'm like, that's my girl. Because you're hearing me, you're seeing the value. But we go out, and we go to events together. We're going to lunch together. I'm getting to know you. You're getting to know me. Our families know each other. I mean, we become family, and I'm available anytime, because we're doing life. We're being successful together, and we're helping customers together, and they're getting the value together, and you get more business doing it that way, and it repeats. It's a win-win. It's quality over quantity in everything.
And that's why my clients have a disaster and they call me, right?
Same.
They
Yes.
know that we're going to talk through what they need to do, because I've had that conversation and they trust me, right? They're panicked and they don't want to make a mistake. And having that trust, right? That only comes because you do have to put the time in, right? This is a relationship business. I was on a team when I first got into real estate, and they were going to hire this young kid, and he was like 18, 19, right? And he was on his phone nonstop, which we all have the bad habit of being. But one of the things that I had to tell him was, and I almost broke him up with his girlfriend, ironically enough, but I told him, I said, this is a face-to-face business, right? Like you have, if you want to be successful, especially young, when people, need to trust you, you've got to look somebody in the eye. This is a business where people need to trust you, especially if you want longevity. You want that referral business, right? And so I made him do this exercise where I made him go home and he had to put his phone down and he had to like really talk to her. Well, then she thought he was being I almost broke them up because young kids don't do that anymore. But the flip side to it was, I was trying to get him to understand that, yes, do people call somebody up a Zillow and want somebody to open a door and do all that? But if you want to build and have a longevity business, you've got to connect and you've got to protect people. Our job is to protect them. And that's one of the things I've always loved about Nancy and John is, that protection piece where they will talk you and coach you through what it takes. But at the same time, you guys try to save us money, right? Like you're like us, it's not great spending a ton of money on something you feel like you don't need, but when you need it, you need it.
Absolutely. And that's why we proactively reach out on our end. We want to make sure you're in the best space possible at all times. Absolutely. There's so much value to that. I get calls every day from realtors in emergency situations, whether I have them or not as a customer. They're calling me because they trust me. And that makes my heart so happy. They could have losses, all kinds of issues where I can't write them, but I'm still there for everybody. And if I get a call at 4 a.m, I do pick up because that's an emergency. And that's what I want to be there for.
I know. It's funny. I told Nancy a while back, like I have called in for a couple of things and then they always transfer me to John. I'm like, I'm okay. I don't need John. I always feel like, am I flagged? But
you're on the VIP list.
I know, but you guys do gosh, when I got my Mercedes, I had it 1 or 2 days and somebody literally backed into the side of it, like out of the driveway, across the road, straight in. It's like a Saturday or Sunday. I'm at this client's house for a listing appointment and I'm like calling Nancy. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm really insured. I've only had it like 24 hours. Like, shoot, but that's the difference. Like all your reps, like we have your cell phone numbers and y'all are just that difference. Like I said, like it didn't matter how many times my other clients called that State Farm.
And that's normal.
That's normal. She never
Yes.
got an actual agent.
Yes.
That
they'll tell them to call in claims and they don't do reviews and they don't a lot of times call back. That is average. Like that's on probably 80% of agents out there, which is crazy. But that's the normal experience that most people have.
Well, before I met you, we had State Farm and I have no clue who that person was until I met you and we moved over. That's the difference in being able to call into an office and who you're talking to and your agents are with you for, years and years and being able to, and they know you when you call in, right? Like I don't meet all your agents, but they know me when I call in on my policy. And that's why Michelle was like, I don't think this is right. The other day when I had the big discount. And then we got digging through and she called me back and she was like, all this stuff in your life happened, right? You guys also do DriveWise, right? That's another way you can save.
Yep, that's a big savings on your driving that rewards good driving, and you could use it or not use it. It's free, but it's going to give you 10% off your auto policy right off the bat, the entire premium. And you can put that on a bill or get a check, and then you get an additional 3 to 20% every 6 months after that. And so there's just savings. I try and find it everywhere I can. at all times for you. I mean, and
It's
literally
just an app. It's an app on your phone and it tracks your driving. That's all it is. It's
very easy. We have a 90% retention. In today's time, that's almost unheard of, especially with the size of our agency. We have had a 90% for a long time. It's our reviews, it's us being involved. I just can't tell you how, I mean, that's why we have relationships. We have the same customers. I mean, we're always growing, but I have the same staff. I take care of my staff because of my background. I know I value and I appreciate them. We work hard, very hard, and I pay them very well, because they work hard. But there's nothing about us normal. It's just how we are.
Yeah. So, let's talk. I know this is going to sound odd, but one of the things they added on my policy was something on my windshield, and it was something like $10. I don't know. It was something super cheap, but it's one of the easiest things to have, right? Where you don't have a deductible or you don't hit into anything with your windshield. Can you talk
So
about
that's
that?
your comprehensive coverage. So we are very big on, I can tell when people have done reviews when I see their coverages, because we recommend the same thing. We want people to have collision, your deductible to be $1,000, and your comprehensive deductible to be 0. And because the amount of trucks that are on the road are substantial, and realtors are driving all the time, just like I drive all the time. I have replaced my windshield 5 times in 10 years. Windshields are expensive, and especially with all the flashes that you have with the new windshields. If you have a 0 deductible, it's a bummer, but you don't pay anything. And the difference in premium from 1,000 to 0 in comprehensive might be, as you said, like it's like $10 or $15. It's nothing. Yeah. So why
I
would
have a cracked windshield right now. I have my new car, and I had it 3 weeks, and a big truck with a whole bunch of dumps, soil in it, no cover.
Yeah.
And the minute it pinged, I went. I'm still waiting too. There's a back order right now on because it's a brand new vehicle on the glass, and it's been like 2 months, and I'm still waiting on them to replace it. But like I said, I called. It was the easiest claim. I went on to your app, put it in, and
your
it was
comprehensive losses do not increase your premium.
Yeah.
So you don't feel bad using it.
So that's good. That's good to know. Another piece of it. Is there something else I didn't ask you? I think I covered everything.
We're real big, like especially on auto. There's so much on protection on auto that we push. So you have what's called a bodily injury, which is the amount that it's by law you have to have it. It's the amount that you pay when you hurt somebody else and you are at fault. The state minimum is $25,000 per person. Okay, how fast can you spend that in the hospital?
Oh, that's one ER visit.
In a second. So, but what happens if their bill's $100,000 and you have 25,000? Sorry, it's all I have. We good? They'll garnish your wages here. They want to sue like mad here. So we recommend minimum to have 100,000/300,000, which means per person per accident. We actually recommend higher, 250, 500 plus an umbrella policy. I personally have an umbrella policy. It's one policy that covers everything. It covers any, if you have home, landlord, motorcycle, boat, cars, one policy. It's excess liability, and it's not a whole lot of money, and it covers your attorney fees, because at that level, it's $500-600 an hour, and it's only a couple $100. That's how you protect your assets. It's a peace of mind. So make sure you have enough coverage there.
So, well, Nancy, we're right at our time. We did really good today. I know that a lot of people in our group will watch this on a playback. So if anybody's watching this back, I'm also going to put in how to reach Nancy and everything. And unfortunately, you're not in person. You get the best hugs if anybody doesn't know you. That's the only downside to doing a Zoom. I didn't get one of your great hugs today, but I appreciate your time and, oh my gosh, all the knowledge that you're willing to give and how you take care of everybody.
So and we do the entire state of Georgia. If you need contacts outside of Georgia, my husband's been on the National Advisory Board of Allstate. We know the best of the best in every state, so we can hook you in.
Yes, if you do business in Florida or Alabama or another state or something and need it. And then we do have a couple agents that are in other states that do watch in, that jump in. So
Don't hesitate to
look in
call.
with
I mean,
somebody local.
for quick questions, I've done this forever. I usually know the answer. If I don't, I can find out right away for you. So I'm going to ask that to you.
Yes. So thank you guys. Thank you,
Thank
Nancy.
you so much.
Bye-bye.
Take care.